I don't know how well people can hear that. Thank you, Will Ferrell as Harry Carey. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is a pregame live show here on the Pit Press podcast. We are in the Mountain West Conference semifinals. Hopefully, we have more depth tonight than Utah State big men. It's a full house. Cue up the intro to TGI Friday, and it is Friday. Hey, TGIF. My name's Ryan Tamori. Before I introduce our panel, the gang, we want to thank those that make what we do on our site possible. Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Affordable Solar. I didn't mention Hydro Bar. Shout out to those guys. Turquoise Desert Tap Room and Abrazo Homes. So thanks everyone there. One semifinal down in the Mountain West Conference tournament done. Jacob, you knew that score off the top of your head. What was it?
It was 86-70.
San Diego State rallies after Jaden Ledee gets in foul trouble. 86-70, rallies. So San Diego State will be in the Mountain West Conference championship game. Death taxes in San Diego State in the Mountain West Conference. Tomorrow, tip is at 4. I'm going to introduce everybody around the let's see if we get sued by ESPN around the horn. Hey, Eric Malton, my co-founder and business partner in New Mexico Alumni Media and the Pit Press podcast. He's joining us tonight. How are you, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm good, Ryan. I'm good, guys. Happy to join you this time around. Wasn't able to last game, but let's get into it.
All the way from the Bay Area, it don't play, Mr. Richard Thompson.
Richard.
How's it going, gentlemen? Still amped up from last night. Looking forward to see what tonight holds.
You can follow him at MSportsCapper on Twitter. I'm not happy right now. UVA can't make free throws. I wish I was wearing the hat. Mr. Jacob Neff, how are you?
Doing good, Ryan. Hoping the Lobos could get through the semifinal and into the finals. I think with that, it officially punches their ticket and keeps them out of the first 4 games in Dayton. So excited to get into it.
All the way from Silver City, New Mexico. He's the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970, and he's been at the pit all week. Mr. Ed Nunez, how are you?
Doing well. I think it's a great win with a lot of great energy last night, but I think with Jacob, I kind of agree the job's not done. So I hope that they come out with the same desperation that they did last night.
Big win last night for UNM. They beat Boise State, a team they lost to twice during the regular season. They beat them last night, 76-66 in the quarterfinal. Interesting tidbit here that I just heard from Steve Lapis. No team, I think it was the play-by-play guy, but no team has ever advanced to the championship game since they expanded the tournament. Instead of quarterfinal, semifinal to that first day where you have more than 8 teams. So no one has ever advanced that's played on the first day. Usually everybody that advances to the championship game has started in the quarterfinals. Just some comments real quick. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, feel free to comment. Tell me I suck. Tell me actually you like me. Any one of us. Duke City Rebel, everyone's a Lobo, woof, 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 as I always say, because I'm devil's advocate. I've never heard a Lobo wolf. They howl. I love it. Lionel Hutz's alias, Miguel Sanchez. USU really shit the bed. Guards crumbled under SDSU pressure. I'm going to go to Jacob Neff because you have said that Utah State does not have any depth.
Yeah, I mean, they don't. It's terrible. That game flipped on a switch once Osabar got 2 fouls, and then Brown didn't make a 3-pointer tonight. And quite frankly, they were struggling from beyond the arc all game, except for Ian Martinez. He was hitting a couple. They just don't have anybody that's valuable to bring off the bench from a big guy perspective that could at least stand their ground when Osabar gets in foul trouble. I mean, They were up 17 points when Ledee was out with 2 fouls. And then Osabar got his second foul. They took him out of the game. And with their backups versus SDSU's backups, they reeled it all the way down to a 3-point game at half. I think that explains a lot about Utah State. If you don't have depth in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a really long, a really short brief stint in the NCAA tournament, because as soon as Ospar gets in foul trouble, they're going to be in deep trouble.
I think a lot of that too was just defensively, San Diego State locking in, making it really hard for those shooters at Utah State who are normally really good, but just pretty much challenging everything. So I think that was probably a big reason that some of those shots weren't falling. And we all know that San Diego State really steps it up in the Mountain West tournament, locks in defensively, one of the best in the country at doing it, and a really big reason why they're going to their 7th straight Mountain West championship game.
Hot damn, 7 straight. Hey, David
7
Fresca,
straight.
nice hat, Eric. David, I don't have to eat horse shit for another day. Happy I can say that on our live stream here. All right, to tonight's game against Colorado State. Again, I'm not an X's and O's guy. I like to watch the game. I like to lose money on college basketball. That day is coming. Yeah. Maybe when the Eagles win another Super Bowl. Says the New York Giants fan. There's no Eagles fan on this on this show. And I forgot what I was going to say because now I'm just thinking about horse poop. I think UNM matches up pretty well against Colorado State. I think 3 is quite an okay number there. It opened up at 1.5 last night. Rick, I have not heard you say much, so I'm going to go to you first because we are on a time crunch. What do the Lobos have to do offensively tonight, and perhaps how effective will JT Toppin be?
That's a good question because the bigs didn't do much last night. Only 6 points between Toppin and Nelly. I hope Toppin's injury, whatever it was, shoulder, I believe they said, isn't bothering him. He needs to be, involved along with Nelly tonight. I think if UNM's going to have success, you can't rely on House and Dent to have such big games offensively again. And on the defensive end, UNM's just going to have to be patient on defense. Colorado State is going to work the shot clock. They're going to be patient. They're going to give ball fakes and move it around. They give down a good shot for a better shot, and they're a very unselfish team. And I think UNM needs to implement some of that on their offense and really just have a better shot selection tonight. And even if House gets it going early, I'd like to see him, keep the rest of the team involved and not press too hard. So I think involving the bigs, I said that would be key last night, and they didn't do much. So I think it will play a bigger role tonight.
Ed, how desperate do you think this team still is?
You know what? They played with a lot of desperation last night. I thought they played fast downhill. House, for the most part, played well under control. Him and Dent attacked the paint and attacked very effectively. So I was impressed. And House also attacked and threw some nice scoring passes on the inside. So I thought they did that well. But I think that feeling of desperation, don't feel like, there's people that have them in, there's people that have them out. I still think they need to win tonight to get in. Take care of business. Play with the same desperation that you did. And I think they should be okay. Mash didn't have a good game. Again, 4 points. Baker came through with a couple of threes. Amzil, 4 points. They didn't get much from Shu Washington. So, and Rick, you mentioned that Toppin not effective inside, but he had 13 rebounds. So he did hit the glass. They're going to need him tonight to have a good game for them to advance. I thought that one dunk in the lane, the NBA dunk when he's chinning up on the rim, might have cost UNM some more money for the NIL next year. That was a heck of a dunk in the lane. He took over for a period of time. I think he scored 8 straight points. So if they play like that tonight with desperation, play downhill, loose and easy, under control, I think they're going to win. I do.
Jacob, we just saw it in UVA and NC State, and that's what March is all about. Especially the way that bank did it in toilet bowl. It was great. Crazy things are happening in DC these days. 2 things that even somebody like me who's terrible at the game of basketball but understands it. Rebounding and free throws. I don't have the hat on. It's behind me somewhere up there. They've been out rebounded both games, and hopefully they can make more free throws tonight. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be important. Colorado State's not exactly a big team. They do have physicality with Scott, and Cartier could still play. He's not super aggressive or long. He's just, he holds his ground in there, but he also can go out to the outside. I just feel like UNM should out rebound this team. And looking back at both the games that they've played so far this year, they've been out rebounded them. The second game that they played, it was 40-39, so not a significant difference in rebounds. But the first game, I think it was 39-28 or 38-29, so that's a significant difference. As far as free throws, yeah, I mean, you have to make your free throws in March because these games are going to continue to get extended for longer periods of time now. Because and not in this, I don't think in this game this situation is going to take place, but it's, in most of these games, it's win or go home for a lot of these teams, right? So you see the fouls starting earlier and earlier in the game. And when you see a team like New Mexico, who was having a really hard time shooting free throws, you're going to get fouled even earlier in the game because, a couple empty possessions or one of two and you hit a three, you can gain points quickly. Last night, they lost a little bit of a focus on the line. I think Danton House went 1 for 4 at, during a stretch at one point. Omzil was really off from the free throw line last night. I think he went 2 for 5, if I'm not mistaken. So, you've got to be shooting better than 55% or 60%. That game could have been over a long time ago last night, but we kept making it interesting by missing. But the one thing that I want to drill down on is this team starting to look like the team that went on that stretch from the San Diego State win, when they won by 20 points 4 consecutive times. The defense is more active. They're helping down low. They're rotating well. They're not standing around. And I think that the defense was the major factor last night. And that's why we saw Mash not play for the final 10 minutes of the game, because the liability on defense would have been so much more significant. This team's going to win on their defense. It's crazy to say that because they're so offensively, inept. You look at this team and you're like, this is an offensive team. It's their defense is much more important than their offense. So they're going to have to continue to keep playing that type of defense and rotating and doing that if they want to continue to move on.
Miguel Sanchez bench value last night was D. Baker, Mushila, and Washington put Boise State guards on their back foot instead of bullying Mash and House. Miguel Sanchez, again, bench value was providing size up top to keep Boise State guards from bullying the Lobos. Boise State outside shooting was effective, but longer but still quicker guards. Sorry, couldn't read that through. Would have never known I got a college degree and my parents paid for 13 years of private Catholic school education. Eric, to you. Speaking of bench, we had a kind of a struggling Amzil who's been awesome, the Mountain West Conference 6th man of the year. What do you expect maybe from the bench guys tonight? I had been saying early on that Jamal Baker Jr. was an X factor. To come out and hit 3 or 4 threes, I felt like he kind of set the tone there early in the first half. But what are your thoughts?
Well, on Amzil specifically, I felt like he was just struggling to find an offensive rhythm. Wasn't shooting the ball with a whole lot of confidence. Wasn't really ready to catch and shoot like he normally is. But we all know he's capable. And in the bench too, in general, I thought Baker stepped up big time. He had 4 threes. Played some real significant minutes, and yeah, definitely the size of the bench and Patino kind of utilizing the rotation of guys is where they won the game. I think Jake really hit the nail on the head there with just the overall defensive scheme that they ran with. I thought that they kept the pressure on Boise State the whole game. They rotated well. They covered the weak side well, and they just continued to put ball pressure on the whole game, and it kind of really threw Boise State out of their game plan. And heading into tonight, I think it's something similar that they're going to need to focus on. Colorado State had 5 guys in double figures last night against Nevada, and 35 points from the bench alone. They had 3 guys. 2 guys were in double figures. 1 guy had 7 off the bench. So they run a pretty deep squad too. And it's just one of those games the Lobos are going to have to stay locked in on defense for all 40 minutes. So we'll see how Patino decides to use his bench. I really like to see Mushila check in. He got on the board. But I think where these guys definitely impacted the game most was on the defensive side, especially coming from the bench. So our boy Miguel Sanchez is kind of on it tonight.
And Lobos are 10-0 when Mushila gets a bucket, I read today.
Muy importante stat. As far as that's crazy. 10, and I didn't realize he had scored in 10 games. Wow. For as much limited action as he saw. For all intensive purposes, UNM is still on the bubble. Joe Lenardi of ESPN has them first 4 out. Jerry Palm has them in as a 10 seed playing Gonzaga. That's an awesome matchup. Some things around the country today. Oregon beat Arizona in the Pac-12 semifinals. The SEC has been underdog city. Mississippi State beat Kentucky. Mississippi State beat Tennessee. Just didn't beat them, savagely beat them. Kentucky lost to Texas A&M, 2 teams on the bubble. Florida advanced, and who else am I missing there, Jacob? I'm not going to look at my phone.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Florida. Florida's solely
Virginia. Said that, right?
Well, no, they don't play in the SEC. I was talking about what's going on in the SEC because A&M and Mississippi State winning does no justice to UNM. Oregon does no justice. What has happened in the A-10, we talked about that last night, has no justice. NC State could steal it, but Jacob and I were talking earlier that the Pac-12, the ACC, and the SEC could have bid stealers if things go south for UNM today. Jacob, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and that's becoming a potential. There's going to be one specific bid stealer in the SEC championship game, no matter what, because if I'm not mistaken, Texas A&M and Mississippi State play each other, and Auburn and I think I have that wrong. I think Auburn plays Mississippi State and Texas A&M plays Florida. So there's actually 2 possibilities in the SEC where both the underdogs advance, and then there's an automatic bid stealer. In the Pac-12, I don't think action has concluded tonight. I know that Colorado, I think, was beating Washington State earlier or early on or at halftime in that game tonight, but you have Oregon now in the finals. So if Colorado or Washington State, whoever advances out of that game, do not beat Oregon tomorrow, you'll have another bid stealer. And then you go look at some of these other leagues, potentially there could be one in the ACC as well. NC State advances past Virginia tonight. They're going to get who is it in the semifinals? I believe it's UNC, and then you have who at the top, or is that that's the final, right?
No, that's the final tomorrow.
That's the final. So there you go. You've got another bid stealer in the ACC potentially with NC State. So tonight becomes a little more of a must-needed win just because these other teams continue to win. So I think, like I said when we started this would significantly, make them safe into the tournament if they won tonight.
Yeah, Colorado is up 40-33 against Washington State right now.
I was just about to mention that. Thank you for that. Because then I changed. No, I'm glad because then I was looking at what was tomorrow night's schedule. Thank you for saying that because I would have moved on. Predictions for Colorado State and the University of New Mexico. Ed, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the game tonight?
Well, I always said that, and I think you guys have all touched on some good points, especially you, Jacob, about the bid stealers. There's nothing guaranteed, so you've got to take care of business. I've got UNM again tonight. I think they understand what the mission is. They sure did last night. And I think the other thing was the way they ran their offense last night with purpose. They cut with purpose. They set picks with purpose. They played defense with purpose. They pushed the ball when they needed to. I thought they made some great decisions on transition. And we mentioned, I thought House attacked when needed to. The in control House. We don't know what tonight brings. We have no idea. But the House last night played very well. I've got UNM. I've got the Lobos. I'll say I said 78. I was close last night. I'll say 73-67. New Mexico wins.
I'm going to go to Neff on this one because my beloved Hawaii Rainbow Warriors are down 22-10 to UC Davis right now. Your prediction for tonight, the over-under, I think, is now 155.5 -3. And then if you wanted to just take a straight bet on the University of New Mexico, it was last I saw -153. So $153 put down on UNM would get you 253 back. Your prediction for tonight.
I think it's going to be similar to last night. If the Lobos hop out on Colorado State and control the game, which they've done the first 2 games in the Mountain West Conference Tournament, they're going to be in the driver's seat to win tonight. If they let Colorado stick around and play their pace and play their potential game, and they're having to try and catch up to them, it's just not as much of it's not as free flowing of an offense. And sometimes I think that internally the Lobos hit the panic button during the game if they can't control the pace. So I think it's going to be super important to get out early. If they do, I've got UNM winning by about 5 or 6 in this game. If they're struggling, I think it's going to come down to the wire, but I still think UNM edges it out because I think Colorado State is actually a pretty good matchup for UNM in this game, just because they match up with the guards and the forwards and the size, is when you compare both teams, there's not a significant size advantage or difference. And I think UNM's actually a faster team. So I'm taking UNM.
We, at least myself, we're usually pretty, at least, again, I take the big fat dump on UNM. I took them last night. Eric, I'll go to you and your prediction for tonight.
I got to stick with the trend here and go with the Lobos. I think, with what what Ed and Jake said, the pace setting, jumping out the gate early, on ball pressure defensively, and just playing with that sense of urgency. I feel like the Pitt West effect is real and alive tonight, a little bit more than it might be last night. I feel like it might feel
And
like
that's
a
saying
home
a
game
lot.
for UNM.
And that's saying a
Yeah,
lot.
so I got to side with the Lobos on this one. I think they match up well with Colorado State, and they're just real heavy at the guard spot. But if there is one X factor for Colorado State that the Lobos really need to focus or key in on, is not necessarily only Stevens, but Nick
Nikkei Clifford.
Nikkei Clifford. Yeah, that dude is tough, and he's actually playing really good basketball right now. Towards the end of the season, they relied on him heavily in that first game against Nevada. So I'm taking the Lobos in this one, though.
We all took the Lobos last night, which I thought about after we got off air, and I was like, oh, maybe we won't end up on Old Takes Exposed or Freezing Cold Takes. To the Bay Area and Mr. Richard Thompson.
I don't particularly like this matchup for UNM, especially at the guards. I'm on the opposite end. I think when UNM faces a team with long, more athletic guards like Colorado State has, it usually causes problems. And this game, to me, isn't going to be an up and down race like it was last night. Colorado State isn't going to turn the ball over at a high rate, and it's going to be a slower game. It might be high 60s like the last matchup we saw at the Pit, in my eyes. And another thing for me it's going to come down to is just how emotionally strong are the Lobos. Everyone's already telling them they're in. They're getting interviews saying this game got you in. How do you feel about it? How are they respond to that tonight? Are they still going to come out with the same energy, or did they kind of spill it all on the floor last night? Even with that said, I think they are more talented, and I still like the Lobos to win, even though I think it'll come down to the end. An endurance match here.
Boise State swept UNM during the regular season. This is a rubber match game, much like the earlier game today in the Thomas and Mack on UNLV's campus. I in early January, I thought, man, this team looks. Who compared them to the 95-96 Bulls at the Pit? I think it was Barstool Mountain West at home. They were the 95-96 Bulls. I still think they probably need work to get in, which I know sounds absurd. And I think you'll have probably Super Homer Lobo telling me that that Lobo fan that, they're in. I mean, if you watch any of conference week, it's chaos, and going into the tournament, I think the tournament's going to be completely chaos. It's going to be hard to predict. I just think they're feeling it right now, like they did early in January. If they win, I'll feel probably different when I finally get some sleep and wake up tomorrow. It's been a long 24 hours. I actually think that they probably win pretty easily tonight. And for those that, get at me on social media, and you guys, know me very well. I'm not really glass half empty kind of guy, but I think they get the job done pretty easily tonight. And if you're somebody that doesn't normally listen to us on a regular basis, this is usually not the case where we're all on UNM. We did it last night. I would imagine tip-off is probably right around the corner. Ryan asked Mountain West Conference for UNM tip-off at 7 p.m. These 10 games easy. Why don't you contact CBS Sports and you can bitch and moan? Because I think they've always done this. Here we go. Let's get win number 25, C123. My name is Ryan Tamori, one of the many faces that we have now on the Pit Press podcast. On behalf of Jacob Neff, Richard Thompson, my business partner Eric Malton, Mr. Ed Nunez. Everybody enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully we will be talking to you sometime before around 3:00 Mountain Standard Time, or we'll just do a recap, but we're coming to you live tomorrow. Everybody enjoy the game. And for those in Vegas, stay safe and have a good time. Talk to you soon.